Ngifisa ngabe bekunenye indlela yokwenza izinto. Kuze kanjani ukuthi kube yimi onakekela lo mndeni ongaqalwanga nayimi? Ngineminyaka u-21 kuphela, kodwa ngikwazi nokuthola umsebenzi. Nami ngiyafisa ukuvuka ngesikhathi esifanele, ngigqoke kahle ngiye office njengontanga yami. Ngifisa ngabe bengingasebenzeli lo muntu. Nkosi yami, ngizokwenza njani ukuhlanganisa izinto?
In South Africa, we have trade unions that ensure the well-being of their workers. All these trade unions fall under the banner of COSATU, whose work is to improve working conditions and to make sure that there's fair practice, as well as encourage working solidarity all over the world. Now, every industry has its problems, but it seems that every year South Africa is playing witness to the many strikes that are happening by the not-to-be-forgotten workers, with the biggest gripe being for money. So what's going on, South Africa? Have we forgotten the people that actually make this country tick? And on the other side of the coin, are our workers not empowered enough to negotiate their way to better working conditions?
Ho tloha ka selemo sa 1990 e sale Afrika Borwa e keteka letsatsi le kgwedi ya basebetsi, empa re ka ipotsa hore le hale le teng letsatsi lena hobaneng basebetsi ba bangata ba sa kgotsofala.
Who are the workers?
You are also a worker. Everyone is a worker. The teachers, the doctors, lawyers, everyone, even these people are workers.
I also, myself, I'm one of the workers because I do trade my own along the streets. I got no money to rent the shop. I got my own trade on the streets. So we do live by like that because we don't have anyone to employ us. So we develop our own business by ourselves. So I'm also a worker.
Do you think it's important for workers to know the rights tsabona?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important?
Sina nkoka ngopfu ku va tiva ti rights ta wehe ku ri kuma kun'wanyana kandzero ku fana me Teresa security u fanele swi tiva ku ri u endla yini loko u hlangana na ti problem la ku fana ka vu labor.
Do you belong to a union?
At some point, they are useful.
We are gonna di sharp because they gonna represent babereki.
And when workers strike, what do you think it does to the economy? Does it do anything to the economy?
Yeah, it has got an effect in the economy. Mara, strike is not something that is going to happen every day. So even maybe we strike a day over a week, they are just pushing or the demand is abona.
Lindiwe Shibambo ke motho yeo re ka mo bitsang mohale wa sebetsi. Ka ho sebetsa ka thata ho hae o kgonne ho phamisa bohlokwa ba ditokelo tsa basebetsi ba re sa bankelleng hloho.
Okay, Made for You it's a brainchild of mine that I was thinking about from 2000, around 2000, 2002, because personally I was a domestic worker. My first job was being a domestic worker. So I sebeditse ko Sunnyside in Pretoria in 1997. And the reason that I worked was because I did not have chelete ya skolo. So next one ke raise chelete to register the following year So I had no skills at all. You know, all I knew what to do was to clean and cook and iron. So I thought instead of just hoema and wait for something that I'm not sure of, it gets something in the meantime to raise money. And, you know, I got a job as a domestic worker, and that's how the whole thing started. However, I did manage to register, you know, go TUT. I studied National Diploma Auditing, and I worked in a bank. And during that time when I was employed, everybody on Abatla, a domestic worker, would come to me. And I just felt, I mean, if I give my colleagues reliable workers and they're happy with them, why then kesayetse in a way that then somebody pays me for it? We do not operate like your standard agency. Recruitment, we have a lot of recruitment drive because we believe are in these areas that unfortunately they don't have money, they don't have enough resources, they don't have time, money or anything to be coming to towns, to developed areas. They struggle for that. So we feel what is made for you, let's rather go out and say to Bomme, we are here to help you. Our specifications are not your level of education. Right now, our standard is that you need to be well mannered, you need to be well groomed, you need to be disciplined. Rebata the character, we invest in the character of the person.
I've got 2 kids. My husband passed away 2004. Then I decided to come to South Africa to find a job. When I came to Made4, I was having nothing. But now, my life has changed. I can encourage other people to work as domestic workers than moving around in the street.
Our focus is more on women empowerment, is more on seriously, you know, quantifiable job creation. We've created 500 jobs in the past 12 months. You can look at our records and really say they have created. And the only way that an organization can do that is if an organization is people on the ground. Because people on the ground keep on being unemployed, if we have to be fair about it.
I'm proud of myself as a domestic worker because I know what I'm doing and what I'm doing for my family. They are proud of me because I'm doing a lot of under this domestic work.
And we are creating that platform for Walakot. Much as we're going to make sure that you are employed, but leave this particular industry with knowledge. So we have those workshops with them, and at the end of at least between 4 and 9 modules, they get a certificate. It's an accredited domestic service certificate that a person can take in any other hospitality industry, cleaning companies, or anywhere.
We are different because we are looking out for both the client and the employees. We make sure the ladies are not exploited, they are not worked overtime, and in turn as well, we make sure the employees do not abuse the employer's children and just take them for granted or steal from them.
For me, South Africa has been a country where we wait for problems to explode and then want to come up with solutions. I mean, issue at the farm workers has been going on for quite a long time. Exploitation within that industry has been going on for quite a long time. And it will get to a point where people feel enough is enough. And I'm saying as a country, as private sector, as government sectors, we need to hold hand and identify problems before they erupt.
Ha thoke sei e khutla re rwala digambutu tsa rona ebile re kena mosebetsing ho latela Lali Dangezele o teng hore hlalosetsa ka bohlokwa ba ho matlafatswa hwa batho.
And I think for me, if strikers were more empowered and educated about their rights and responsibilities,
Have you ever spared a thought for the man on the street who wakes up earlier than the earliest bird, works in hazardous situations, and then has to go home at the end of the day not having seen the sun at all?
Ha re nahana ka ho lema matsatsing ana re nahana ka di-strike tsa basebetsi ba Western Cape, empa Talk SA ile tsa nin ho utlwa hore na basebetsi ba moo ba ikutlwa jwang.
Business ya hina hi deala hi ti-indigenous chickens, ti nga a crossbreed ya Ovambo, Venda and Ndebele breed. And then he produced the free-range eggs. Ni be ni hlangana na van'wanyani va ka agriculture after ni ta va ni xavi purasi leri. Then hi kombisana because a ni lava assistance. Then loko hi ta va hi karhi hi kombisana ni hlangana na Mani Zwane wa le ka agriculture. So she brought this idea up, kuri, what if unga endla leswi swa ti-chickens? Then ni nghenela mhaka ku research and la ku twisisa ku ri ku humelela yini.
You've got a free-range farm. What is a day in the life like for this kind of a place where there's free-range chickens?
Tihuku leti ti need love, ti need care. And ti lava u ti twisisa. And a day like this thing yi hectic swinene. Because if I need to feed an ampunzu, it nyika swakudya na mati. Because it depends on swilo swesweleswo. If I need tshama hi kha hi ti cheka hikuva nkarhi wun'wana ta dyana na tona self hi toxe. So hi make sure ku ri ha va na tona, ha ti cheka timeously loko hi heta ku ti feeda, hi make sure ku we walk around, check if everything is fine, sukutaniya. Then hi ti humesa ti ya ku tlangeni, as you can see them, they are outside now. Ti le ku dyeni ka leswi ti dyaku swona, loko nkarhi wu fika ti ta tlhe ti feediwa midday, ti ta tlhe ti feediwa nakambe in the evening. That's our day typically. Na mhaka ku va in between I collect matandza 5 times a day. In the morning after it feed, I 8:30 I collect, 10:30 I collect, 12:30 I collect, 2:30 I collect. The last peak is 4:30.
And how many workers have you got here on your farm?
I've got 14 workers. I've got 5, 6 here, like at the cycle huku, and then I've got 3 at a pig station. Okay. And then myself also, and my daughter who is not here now.
Is it important for workers to know their rights?
So important, very important, because ban laba ba ingisela radio, ba ibona TV. Probably not in newspaper because nabatisela the newspaper la. So it's possible ba ba skumalaya. So my approach and belief is that, like for instance, lokon ba bitana ntshamana bona hansi akuri nlaba kuri ba twisisa kuri they are free to go if they are uncomfortable, because anlaba nkuri ni ba endlisa ba believe ka leswi men believe ka sona.
And tell me, how do you pay your workers?
Ani ba hakeli kahle as pe mfumo wa hina leswi lava ku swona, because now kusungula prasra mirari rintswa. So I had to sit down with my workers. Niba hlamsela ku this is my situation, it's my wish and dream ku vanhu va hakela kahle. But this at the present moment I cannot. So ni tsarile na papila ni kombela ku ri ni le ka situation leyi ni kombela ba ni excuse for some time, but na commit ku ri next year this time ni ta vanhu va hakela mali leyi lava ku imfumo.
Are your workers happy?
I would like to believe so, because I'm trying my level best. Kurbaba happy.
Uqale nini ukusebenza la eMadidi? Sungule i-1 ta n'hweti leyi.
And kuhamba kanjani so far? Uphatheke kahle?
Ya ni khomeke kahle mhaku la ni tirhaka koho a ni tirhi jambini. Ya ni tirha ndzeni ka yindlu ene ntirho loyi wu tirhaka a wu vavi. Mina ni pfuka hi 5 o'clock, then hi 7 sungula ku ya ntirhweni. Loko hi fika laha ntirhweni rhanga hi fika hi koropa la hi tirhelaka koho, then hi heta hi sulasulana swilo leswi nga laha. Mina va nga ku strike a hi swilo swa kahle mhaku loko hi va hi karhi hi strike un'wana na un'wana i ta na miehleketo ya yena ya ka yi nga ri kahle. Se loko ho tshama na bosi ya hina hi vulavula na yona hi kona leyi nga ta kuma solution ya kahle. Mhaku va hi loko hi hlangana hi tele ku nga ri na hi va hi hlangana hi tele hi nyikana miehleketo ya ka yi nga ri kahle to wrong advice. So swi kahle ku hi tshama na bosi ya hina hi vulavula na yena. Workers day se me a hleketa ku fanele a siku leri hi fanekele hina vatirhi hi fanekele hi tsaka hi va hi khensa siku leri hikuva a na hina va hi hleketeni swa ku na vatirhi then va fanekele va kume siku ra vona ra ku wisa. Se hi fanekele hi tsaka hi ro siku leri. Ya munhu fanekele a swi tiva ku i tirha hi ta hi tihi, na loko a nga khomiwi kahle a ta kota ku ta vula ku leswi a hi swona. A va karhi a swi tiva ku why a vula ku a hi swona. Ti-right munhu fanekele a va karhi a ti tiva.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's too hot as you can see.
Okay.
So what bona ku titele njani and tile ku ilandzeleni because that's bona ku feeding time.
Yeah. What's it like working here on Madidi Poultry?
Lava swilo swa ku hambana, ni lava ku tirha kahle hi kuma mali hi endla swilo swa kahle production la purasini.
What is that for?
Ni sungula ntirho na 7 o'clock ndi heta hi 5 o'clock na nhlekani hi endla lunch hi 1 o'clock na majambu hi 5 o'clock hi chayisa hi go back to home ti tsama kahle.
And do you think it's important for workers to know their rights when they're working?
Ya swa endleka un'wana na un'wana wa ku tirha u ta tirha loko mulungu u lavela swa ku endla so u fanele ku endla so. Loko yena mulungu a ku nyika ti endla so na so u ta endla swa lavaka so because yena u ta rula wa purasi leri saka hi ta ku yingisela milawu ya yena. Strike ya endleka nkarhi wun'wana loko a mi nga twanani hi mulungu wa n'wehe but loko mi twanana a ku ri na problem swin'wana na swin'wana swi lava mu yingiselana mu twanana kahle uti swin'wana na swin'wana swi ta makisa kwini and mu endla so na so na so.
Yeah.
So 3 times a day, this is what happens.
Yeah, this is what happens. It happens on a daily basis. Nempundu, we do the same thing. In the afternoon, midday, and the sonalis. In the interim, we pick up amatans because look, we must for a long time inside the tama fayetela and karwanya takangofu. So to avoid cleaning, we pick them timeously. Kurianga tamia takile vetansena loko ifika pack station ema package ya kunene itaya pack station na kono ya clean nyana matanga.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mama, just in closing, you're so passionate about your farm, you're so passionate about your workers. What makes you that way?
By nature, I'm a humble person, and by nature, I'm a very understanding person. Ni believe more than anything, and ni believe when you respect someone, you are respecting yourself. I need to be a blessing to them as they bless me every day. So that is why I'm this way, because I believe in blessings very strongly. And I know that if I'm good and bless them, I will be blessed too. So that's why I'm like this.
Ha talk ya say e khutla ntate Patrick Craven ya tswang Khosatu o teng lena.
Unions from being formed, and that is one of the biggest challenges we face.
There are two things that come to mind when South Africa and its people are mentioned: a nation of complainers, a nation of strikers. Surely as South Africans, if we can get together to complain and to picket, then we can get together to find solutions so that we can move beyond our problems. In the kitchen today, we've got Lali Dangezele, who is an actress and entrepreneur, as well as Patrick Craven, who is the national spokesperson of COSATU. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Patrick, who are the real workers? Because there's a misconception that it's manual laborers who are workers.
Anyone who sells their labor, basically, which means anyone who earns a wage or a salary, is a worker. But the vast majority will tend to be the lower paid workers, because that's the nature of the economy. And they're the ones that trade unions like COSATU mainly represent. And of course, not all of them are working. Particularly when you have high levels of unemployment, there is always going to be a number of people who are not working, but it doesn't mean they're no longer workers. We would call them unemployed workers. Okay. And one of the challenges is to find ways to get them back to work.
Exactly. Last year, as well as this year, we've seen a lot of situations where there's just been, discourse rather. I mean, Marikana, the farm workers strike as well. So many issues, and it just ends up landing up in anarchy, and it's just hectic and people are dying, Why do you think it gets to that point that we cannot decide in a room whilst we're negotiating and actually give the workers what they deserve instead of it getting to this point? Why do you think it gets to that point?
I think at some point in time it comes down to empowerment and the level of empowerment that one has. Because if, for example, I'm going to negotiate my contract, why do I negotiate just for the next 12 months as opposed to the next 36 months, for example? Agreeing on a minimum wage increase on an annual basis that is responsive to our annual inflation rate? Why do we always have to strike every single year when we know that every single year the cost of living is going to increase? And I think for me, if strikers were more empowered and educated about their rights and responsibilities, it would be something that can be avoided, because it's really, really costly. And if at the end of the day it has the same result, i.e. people going back to work and getting back to the way that things run, as it were, then why not avoid that Titanic on an annual basis? It's like we see the iceberg, we know it's coming every single year, it's in the exact same spot, but you know what, guys, we're not going to change the course of direction. Let's go right into it yet again. But that's my naive point of view. I don't know if maybe Patrick might say there's certain aspects that might challenge what it is that I'm saying.
There's a tendency, I think, in the media always to blame the workers, whereas very often it's a bad employer who's just been completely intransigent and unreasonable, and the workers actually have a very good reason for going on strike. But on the point about anarchy and chaos and so on, I think that's precisely why we need trade unions, because the farm workers was an interesting example of where workers went on strike who were not in a trade union. And that is undoubtedly why it tended to be very explosive and sporadic. And one of the reasons why we need trade unions is precisely in order to make it more structured, so that you can have proper negotiations. But again, one of the reasons why so many workers are not in trade unions is not their fault. It's because the employers actually do everything they can to prevent unions from being formed. And that is one of the biggest challenges we face.
But do the workers understand their rights and responsibilities?
I think most workers do. And it's important to stress that while we're talking about strikes, far more disputes are resolved without strikes. But obviously that doesn't get into the newspapers or the TV news. And workers are aware of their rights. Generally, strikes take place when things break down. We have to change the mindset, not just of the workers, but the employers as well, and make them realise that they too have responsibilities.
I liked what you ended up in, you know, workers need to empower themselves, and also, you know, we need to make sure that we don't just look after the workers, but also the employers change their mindsets. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been awesome talking with you.
Thank you for inviting us.
So guys, that's all we have time for. Let's keep talking on our Facebook page, Talk SA, on Twitter at Talk SA, or you can follow me as well at I Am Bama. Until next week, Hariboeng, let's keep talking SA. Thank you so much.
Se lebale ho kopana le rona Facebookung kapa re romelle maikutlo a lona ho 33120.